That's right. Should B2B companies worry about differentiation? Is that a dumb question? Am I losing my mind? Today we're going to answer those questions and much more. I'm Pete Monfre, and every Thursday I'm live on LinkedIn talking B2B marketing at 11 o'clock Central Time. So join us. We talk about, I think, interesting stuff. We hope you think it's interesting too. I want to help you make better marketing decisions and stop throwing away your money on stuff that will never work, and help you start driving more opportunity to your business through better marketing practices. Yes. And today I have a real head scratcher, and I don't mean lice. True story. A couple weeks ago, a client asked me, we were talking about differentiation, working on a marketing plan for this. It was about I'd say upper level, upper size, small to mid-sized company. And in a market that's very kind of saturated, really competitive. And so we were talking about differentiation, and he asked me, why should we worry about being different, and how does it connect to revenue? Now, if you've seen me, if you know me, I should say, or if you've seen my podcast, you know that I'm not usually one to be at a loss for words. But honestly, nobody's really asked me that question in over 30 years of working as a marketing strategist with B2B companies. He wasn't asking about what it was. What is differentiation? No, he was asking why. And of course, I know why, because it's my job to know why, and I'm going to tell you more a little bit later in the video. But at that moment, I was kind of stumped, because to me, the answer of why it seems obvious. It seems, I thought everybody knows why you should strive to be different from your competitors, And I say you, I mean your offering, your company, your brand, your position, your message, whatever it is, it needs to be different. I thought everybody kind of understood that. So I made this kind of a common mistake, I think, that consultants, people that have a lot of focused knowledge in one area, we call them subject matter experts. I hate to refer to myself as an expert, but that's the term. And so I think we often assume that people know what we know, right? The stuff that we, have taken for granted to the point where we may have even forgotten it by now. Like I could say, I've probably forgotten more about marketing than most 30-year-old people. So we take a lot of this stuff for granted, and we kind of project that out onto people, and kind of assuming that they know what we know, or at least the foundation. And really, I found that you can't make that assumption. Let me give you a story. A few years back, the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma hired me to kind of help them complete. They had sort of a napkin drawing of a business incubator for their tribal population to encourage them to start businesses, but they needed help making that thing a reality. So I was part of the team that made that happen. And a little trivia note about the Choctaw Nation. They are the only Native American tribe that owns the land under their feet. They don't live on a reservation. They live in east Oklahoma, and they literally own that land. So they are a sovereign nation. Inside of a sovereign nation, they have their own constitution. They have their own judicial system. Anyways, fascinating, amazing tribe. Was I believe the only of the large, what they call civilized tribes, that negotiated a deal, when they were getting shoved off their land. And so there's a particular kind of brilliance there. And a lot of that had kind of been lost over the years, that entrepreneurial, the negotiating, the trading. They said, look, we want to own where we live. And, that's what they were able to negotiate. And so, part of that process to create an incubator was to create the curriculum for the incubator. And so we went all over Southeast Oklahoma talking to tribal members, and we started to realize that, what we thought was sort of the baseline, the starter level, that we needed to revise that downward, all the way down to sort of explaining, what a value exchange is. And it was really surprising to me because these aren't dumb people. I mean, it's just that they've been locked out of opportunity and self-reliance for so long that they just didn't think about it the way that we think about it, right? And in fact, as we went from city to city, it was very interesting. You know, everywhere we go, we were met with a number of Native American women, and they did beadwork and they did craft kind of stuff that was actually very cool. And they would bring their wares out. They knew we were coming. We were part of a larger group, and some of the federal government's people and all that. And of course, you know, we would buy that stuff on every stop. And that was one of the things they did. So they did understand it, but they just didn't think of it the way that we did. They were literally running these little cottage businesses, and they just didn't understand any of the theory behind it. And so, you know, that's a great example of, you know, we were really prepared to overshoot the knowledge of the people that we wanted to serve. And I'm glad we got a handle on it. And we're able to kind of build a even more basic, you know, if there's a 101 course, you know, we built the 100 course. And really within about 6 months, we had 40 tribal members starting new businesses. So that was fantastic. Great thing. I think that, you know, not me, but a big team of people pulled that off, and I'm proud to be a part of that. But think about how that relates to your area of subject matter, and do you overshoot the information? So I don't know if today's program overshoots or undershoots. And what I thought was different is, or what I thought was interesting is, everybody sort of knows what I think everybody knows what differentiation is. I guess I shouldn't assume that, but I'm pretty sure. But really think about the why and try to answer why. If you're especially if you're not a marketing strategist who can answer why, maybe you'd go over to the Googles and you'd try the old Googles, and let's see what happens. Let's go over to the Googles, see what we've got here. So actually, I'm using Start Page. I don't use Google. I recommend you don't either. And so I just wanted to search a real basic question so I could kind of see what comes up. And there is a lot of information. There's a ton of information. Why it is crucial. Okay, let's see. I did look at that one. What was interesting is, as I went through these results, and I'll show you a couple of them, it looks like, well, that answer is answered over and over and over again. So we look to some of these articles, why B2B marketers should differentiate on customer experience. Now, there is some really good insight into this article. I think this is part of Forrester. But every one of these articles that profess to explain why really explains what. Okay, so they're kind of giving you some hints around it. But of course, then it ends, and it really doesn't get into, it really never answers the actual headline of the article. This one says, where do you even start? And it even says, start with why. And this is increasingly true, and with little wonder. Think for a minute how difficult it is from your brand's perspective. Now think about how difficult it is from your customer's perspective. All of us are inundated with marketing hype and claims, not only in your category, but in every aspect of our lives. Our natural response is to turn off as much noise as we can. Okay, that's all actually good. We do this by applying filters, blah, blah, blah. If your widgets are the same as the next guy, it's going to take something truly significant to become the most trusted and respected widget seller. And now we're right into how you do it. How do we define it? Okay. And so again, I went article after article, and as I dig into them, here this one says why it matters, and here are the reasons. Make a compelling argument as to why your brand is best. Sort of. Yes, to a point. Create authentic brand experiences for your customers. What does that exactly mean? I could click that link probably and find out. But again, pretty generic. I know what it means, but I'm just thinking of the average business person who's running a company. Might not, that's kind of jargony. Remain relevant in the face of a constantly changing market. Yes, differentiation can help that. Blast past your company's marketing and sales goals. And that's as much effort that you get here. Now, there's actually some pretty good stuff in this article, but again, I'm looking for why. Why? Tell me why. it seems like nobody wants to tell me why. So let's talk about that for a minute. So why is it important to differentiate if it isn't obvious to you? And how does it connect to revenue? Let me use the example of RFPs. Like, I don't know if your company responds to RFPs. If you do, I just want to say I'm so sorry. And you should stop doing that if you can. Back in the day, our agency used to get a lot of RFPs, and we used to go and compete for those RFPs. We found out that, that's usually a pretty big waste of time and energy. And now what we do is actually, if you send me an RFP, and please do send it, because I'm just going to throw it in the circular file. That's what we do with them. That's our official company process. When we see an RFP, we throw it in the trash. I actually recommended also burning it, but people didn't want to start fires indoors, all that stuff. So politically correct, no fire inside. So what we do is we just toss them. But here's the deal. So sorry, I get off on a tangent there, which is something we do on this program every Thursday at 11 o'clock on LinkedIn. But most of the time we stay on topic, and this time we're talking about RFPs. So what is the purpose of the RFP if you think about it from the buyer's perspective? Now there's, we could talk about the problems with RFPs all day long. We're not going to do that, but think about the purpose, right? The purpose is to even the playing field among 3, 4, 5, 9 competitors. The buyer wants to even the playing field. In my opinion, the way they go about it in an RFP is really not the right way to do it. It's okay if you're buying desks, right? Because let's say you decide to buy a steel case model 379752. You can buy that from thousands of different dealers, and you're going to get the same exact desk, right? So what is it that differentiates those dealers? Cars, a Forerunner, for example, right? You know that the thing's going to be the same at the end. When you put an RFP out for a service, which is intangible, it hasn't happened yet, and also you've already answered all, you've decided, you've diagnosed and prescribed yourself already. So what's left? What is left to discuss? Price. Price. That's all that's left. If the customer perceives that what they get out of that transaction is the same no matter who they get it from, what else is there to talk about but price? And so if you're the RFP process wants to level the playing field. If you're competing for the business, the last thing you want is a level playing field, right? You want that playing field so unlevel in your advantage, to your advantage, that the other companies become irrelevant. That would be the ideal circumstance where the customer just can't even compare. It's like this one company is so much more relevant, so much clearer, and so completely different from these other companies, we can't compare, okay? Guess who's going to win that deal? Now, if it's an RFP, the people that are going to win the deal in an RFP are the ones that help them write it, okay? So that's another thing. We should talk about RFPs sometime on the program because, whew, man, they're expensive and problematic. So think about that for a minute. So if you define this why through the opposite lens, what's the opposite of differentiation? Commodity, being a parity product, okay? So again, Amazon. Look at Amazon. You can buy, if you look at a lot of these, crazy no-name Chinese electronics, for example, even the photographs themselves are exactly the same. It's the same photograph. It's the same factory. It's the same product. It just has a different name on it and the definition of parity products. So, you go and search around for the lowest price, and that's how it works. Now, if you're a B2B company, especially if you're selling services, intangibles, hopefully you're starting to see the picture here of why this is so important. Study after study over years, and my experience over 30 years, is that companies that do a good job differentiating, and let me tell you, it's not easy. And I think even my company, we struggle with this too. It's hard, but everything good is hard. If you get it right, you're able to charge more Okay, how does it connect to revenue? If you get this right, you can actually have a premium price point. You can charge more than competitors. You deliver the same or better service, have a higher margin. And then if you look at companies that look at market share, usually that's reserved for the Coca-Colas of the world, but let's look at Coca-Cola. They are the leader of their category, and they have the biggest market share. All right. And by the way, their positioning statement is the real thing. All right. So they're saying that everything else is not real. Right. So that's really an interesting position, I think. But generally, the companies that pull this off perform better. Okay. They win more deals. They attract more deals. A friend of mine, hopefully he's watching at some point, Artie Byrne. Okay. Artie is the alternative finance guy. All right. That's what makes him different. I don't know that many people that do alternative finance. Actually, I don't know anyone that does it as well as Artie. But Artie knows that's who he is. He's the go-to guy. That's his position. It's what makes him different. It's also what's very, very important to people who are having trouble getting traditional financing. I should put his logo on it, just make him a sponsor, right? But it's just so clear and so relevant. Okay, that's really effective. Now, and also if you think about it, it's the U in USP, unique selling proposition, right? You want to be unique. And I think that even if people understand this why and they understand the what, in practice, it's pretty challenging. That's why people like me exist, to help you put that together. So we've done it many times. We have a process to do it. We know how to do it. But it's even hard for us, honestly. It's just tough. But everything in business is tough. If you've been in business for longer than 3 minutes, you will know that. And so, but I think people get confused about differentiation. They think what you're saying is just be different, right? Well, no, not exactly. It's not enough to be just different. I mean, you could tell everybody in your office to come to work wearing their underpants on the outside of their clothes, right? And that would be pretty different, but probably not that effective, because you have to be unique in the context of what is important to your customers, right? And what are you unique? The idea that you're unique is relative to other things, right? What are these other things? They're your competitors. And so what is your unique position? What is the idea that you own in the marketplace, in the minds of the marketplace? Jack Reese, we talk about, is it Al Reese and Jack Trout? Yes, I think it is. Al Reese and Jack Trout, and there are a bunch of books. The New Positioning is one of them. We talk about that book a lot. Positioning is all about how you express what makes you different, and that implies also, what makes you more valuable, not better, right? Because I see this all the time on websites. You should hire us because we're better, right? Better than what? What are you talking about? What does that mean? If you get the equation right, and you're unique, and you're able to articulate that, the goal isn't just to be different, it's to demonstrate more value, so that the perception is that you have more value than the next guy, right? The next company, the other options that your customer have. And don't tell me, because I hear this all the time, and I need to find my bell, because this is a bell ringing moment. Ding! Too many people tell me, I say, hey, who's your competitors? What other options do your customers have? None. We don't have any. That's not exactly accurate. If I say, what are your competitors? They'll say, we don't have any. If I say, what are the buyer's options to solve their problem besides you? That gets people thinking more about, well, I guess they do have some options. One of them being do nothing, right? Everybody forgets about the hidden competitor, right? The do nothing, right? But usually in almost every market now in this modern age, there are dozens and dozens of options that are not you, okay? And so the good news is, for most small and mid-sized companies, because this is so difficult to get right, if you go do the research like we do, and we look at those competitors, and we're looking at what they're saying and what their message is and how they're positioning themselves, you're going to find out something really interesting. Most of the time, the competitors, nobody has a strong position or a clear position, right? this is good for you if you decide to pursue the marketing plan journey. You'll have a clear position, and that is an advantage right out of the gate, just because the bar is set so low in so many cases. And so it's just not enough to be different. You have to be different in a way that's relevant to your customers. So, and and it also has, so those two things, different and relevant, how do you figure that out? Different from what? Competitive research, competitive positioning research. That's what it's called, actually. You go out and you look at, some people will say brand, some people get all the words mixed up. What you're really doing is you're looking at competitors from a position standpoint. Which position are these guys trying to own? Are they owning? Maybe they do own it, right? Maybe you're making premium writing instruments, not like this, but like the $500 variety. You can be assured that Mont Blanc is going to kick your butt because they own the category, right? And that in that case, the competition is very, very clear. But if you're going to make something premium like that, you would have to come up with something different that would be remarkably different. And I think it was easier 20 years ago. Like software is a great example. As the internet really became a massive deal, it wasn't that hard to differentiate a software product because the field was relatively small still, and so you could have one unique feature, and that was a position, right? I mean, now SaaS companies in particular really have to work extra hard and be extra creative to really determine what makes them truly different, and then what's the most important thing to the customer. How do you get that information? You talk to your customers. You do customer research. Without competitive research and without competitive research, without competitive and without customer research, you're never going to figure out an effective differentiation strategy. You don't have the information to do so. All right. So why differentiate? Why be different? Right? Why do we have skin? Why do mammals need water? Why is the sky blue? No, I don't mean to make fun. I mean, it's obvious to me, but it might not be obvious to you. Bing, bing, bing. Boy, I tell you, sometimes we need to go here. Nah, we won't go there today. Let's stay here. But we hope that you were able to glean some good information from this podcast. It's important that you know how to differentiate. We'll get into that. In fact, there was one thing I almost forgot. We're going to be covering this topic, me and a guy named Bill Lowell from Business Development Directives, back behind the Cheddar Curtain in Wisconsin. And we're putting on a free webinar here in a couple weeks. It's a little too early to tell you the date, but it's coming up here early November. The CEO's Guide to Marketing in a Recession, 7 Proven Growth Strategies for B2B. And I'll give you a hint and tell you a secret. One of them is to get a clear position. Get your positioning ironed out, folks. Batten down the hatches, and we're going to show you how here in a couple weeks, and we'll put a link down in the comments to that free webinar. And we're actually going to roll that webinar every few weeks for a while. So hope you'll catch that, and we want to share with you. Bill and I have been through 4 recessions since we've been in business, and not only did we have to pivot our own companies each time, we helped a lot of other companies do the same thing. To get through those recessions, come out on the other side stronger than before, come out on the other side with more market share than before, hopefully come out of the other side maybe with more price elasticity than before, because there's some things that you can do, and we'll share that in the webinar. But anyway, I appreciate you joining me every Thursday here at 11 o'clock. And I'm looking forward to the next time somebody stumps me, I think. But I was only stumped for a few minutes, and I made the mistake. I made the mistake that I think we all make, and it doesn't matter, what your profession is or what you do. If you have a lot of knowledge about a subject, I think it's just natural to assume that people have those foundational, understandings that you have, and probably they don't. I mean, I think my mom used to say, you know, never overestimate people. Don't underestimate them, and don't overestimate them. Until next week, signing off.